Okay, Tom said he's having some internet issues, so he's still trying to get in. Also, he's been at the South Atlantic Council meeting all week, so he said their meeting just ended about half an hour ago.
You know, his mother had a little medical issue.
No, I hadn't heard.
Yeah, I won't go into details, but because it's for him to say, but she's doing well.
Oh, good. I'm
Right
glad to
after
hear.
the mission meeting, he was going back to Ohio to be with her.
Okay. Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad to hear she's doing better.
Yeah.
When it gets time to review the applicants, I guess you'll just go down the list. You'll bring up the first one and give us
Goodness, I know you've been in meetings all day. In the meeting and all week.
Yeah, really appreciate this scheduling, guys. It's awesome.
We do our best, Tom.
We're gonna rip the
I know
Band-Aid
we had to accommodate it.
off.
You gave me enough time to get a drink, but after the end of the 4.5-day South Atlantic meeting before we started this.
Yeah,
And by
yeah.
drink, I mean a Diet Coke. So, all
You're welcome.
Whatever.
You're welcome.
You're a grown boy.
right, well, let's go ahead. So now we're working.
All right, Robert.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Marine Fisheries Commission Coastal Recreational Fishing License Advisory Committee meeting to order. William, can you read any conflict of interest?
I will. So North Carolina General Statute 138A-15E mandates at the beginning of any meeting of a board, the chair shall remind all members of their duty to avoid conflicts of interest. Under Chapter 138, the chair shall also inquire as to whether there is any known conflict of interest with respect to any matters coming before the board at that time. Then also be cognizant of North Carolina General Statute 143B-289.54 G2.
Okay, thanks. Would you like to do a roll call vote of attendance?
Yeah.
Okay, William, can you do that for us?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, thanks, Laura.
Chairman Bissell,
Here.
I guess you're member Bissell in this case.
Yes.
Doug Rader. Not present. Tom Roller,
Present.
thank you. And Chair McNeil,
Present.
thank you.
Okay, thanks. Now I'd like to vote on approval of the agenda. Do I have
So
a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay. Motion by Rob Bizzle, second by Tom Roller. Roll call vote.
You want to do that, Laura?
Yeah. Rob Bissell,
Here. Yes.
Doug Rader, oh, sorry, absent. Tom Roller
Yes.
and Robert McNeil,
Yes.
thank you. Motion passes.
All right, now I'd like to approve the minutes. And
So
are
moved.
these, okay,
Second.
these are the minutes from the previous meeting, correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, approved by a motion by Rob Bizzle, second by Tom Roller. Or did I have that reversed?
That doesn't matter.
Reverse.
Okay.
Okay, Rob Bissell,
Yes.
Tom Roller,
Yes.
Robert McNeil,
Yes.
thank you. Motion passes. Please.
Tom, you and I are gonna do the heavy lifting today, it looks like.
You know, Rob, I think I'm going to put some of that on you, buddy.
All right, well, I guess at this point we can get into the meeting briefing. William can go over the updates from division staff, and then we can get into the applicants.
Sure. So good afternoon. I'll take a second to introduce myself and DMF members on this call. My name is William Brantley, the Grants Program Manager for DMF. Typically, the DMF Cruffle Project Coordinator will be conducting this with that position vacant for the moment. I'm joined in this meeting by Laura Kablansky, Beth Gavoni, and Deputy Director Mike Leffler. Today, you'll have the opportunity to provide advice on proposals received from the DMF Coastal Recreational Fishing License Request for Proposals. I'll give a short history of the advisory committee, speak on what happens next, and what your action is for today. This is the commission's committee, but we're here to assist and facilitate it for you. You did receive 2 public comments for this meeting. That email was sent out. An edited version was sent today to encompass that last full comment. So for a brief history, in response to Senate legislation regarding U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Sport Fish Restoration Funds, a motion was made at the May MFC 2018 meeting to appoint an advisory committee to provide advice to DMF on projects and grants issued using CREPL funds. The AC is at the MFC chairman's prerogative, and it consists of the 3 recreational seats and science seats of the commission. The last CREPL AC meeting was held in October of 2019 to review proposals received from the CREPL RFP. There's not been a CREPL RFP since then for various reasons. At this past meeting, the AC provided recommendations to the division regarding the proposals. In addition to the advice given, 3 major takeaways were pulled from that meeting, and they were sent to our internal CREPL joint review team. To bullet those, that funding should look at DMF's mission. I guess the first priority with these funds should be to obtain the mission. There was talk on actionable results coming from completion of these projects, and that the data that came from these projects be used for implementation in the management plans or actions. So what's next? We'll take the advice from this meeting and those of the internal review team and present them to the director's office for a funding decision. This was a targeted RFP to focus on division access and education needs. Some of these proposals may not necessarily meet the specific priority needs in the RFP, which would mean they may not be chosen for funding at this time. Division and management needs will be highly considered on final funding decisions. So today, a few things to think about. You'll have an opportunity to provide advice on the projects in this RFP. You can go project by project. Your advice can be small or broad. It can be specific to the funding measures in the proposals. Or if you have proposal alterations or revisions, it's the time to bring it up. And Chairman McNeil, that concludes my brief. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If not, I'd ask you to move forward on the agenda, and we'll be taking copious notes so we can summarize your comments, concerns, and advice to provide to Director Rawls.
Okay. I think we keep going. We dive right into the applicants.
So Robert, I'm happy to sort of guide this process along if you'd like, or I don't want to take the wheel from you, but I'm happy to help where I can.
Well, I guess, so we need to look at the first applicant. Maybe if you could read a brief description of it. We're going to be curious, basically for each project, how much it's going to cost, what portion of, are we expected to pay the whole portion of it? How much are we splitting with the applicant? Those would be kind of my primary questions, but I guess if you can give an overview of the applicant and what they're asking for, and then we can kind of discuss it after that.
Okay. So if you'll go to page 9 in your meeting packet, this proposal was from the Military Appreciation Day Incorporated. This is a nonprofit. They do fishing tournaments for active duty military. This proposal is asking for $25,000 per year. They're coming to the table with a $25,000 match, so it's a 1-for-1 match. We don't require a match in the RFP. However, we leave a block for them to describe if they are offering matching funds. Sometimes that can enhance sort of they're coming to the table with some too. I don't want to read, I won't bore you with the whole abstract, but the first few lines is this is a North Carolina-based nonprofit. Their mission is to hold events where they get volunteer cabins to take active duty troops fishing for a day and hold a large family-style picnic after the day of fishing. In the past, it's been 100% funded from donations. And yeah, I'll leave it at that and let me know if you need more.
I'd like to say that I support any kind of thing that helps our military. The fact that they're putting some of their own money up to match our funds, I think is a great idea. So I'd like to know what everybody else thinks too. Yeah.
May I?
Yeah, Tom.
Thank you, Chair. So, MAD, Military Appreciation Day, has been around for a long time. As long as I've been a guide, so over 20 years. I have a lot of respect for what they do, particularly for taking, active duty military, and anything we can do to support and, provide, benefits to our, active duty military or veterans for that matter is fantastic. You did answer my question earlier about matching grants. That was something that stuck out to me in the application, particularly since it was a donation-based thing. It wasn't like a guaranteed funding. So if there's any thoughts that can be provided on that. I guess my only kind of arbitrary question on here, because I've been involved in some other sort of like events like this, is what sort of liability does it bring? Because you have a lot of people, you're taking, private citizens, putting people on their boat, and you don't have any guarantee of insurance or whatever. That's just something I want to throw out there as a concern, not as a disagreement with the grant.
Can I point to that, Robert?
Yes, please.
Okay. So Tom, that's a really good point. All of our contracts come through DEQ, which is built on Department of Administration. There's several clauses in that. It's boilerplate language, but there's several clauses to basically cover the state in any kind of liability type situations. I guess at the end of the day, you can always be sued, but that's our contracts are written to protect the state if no one else.
So then sorry, go ahead, Tom.
I was saying if the state was good with that and is clear on the liability issues on that, I'm okay with that. But thank you for answering that.
So.
Okay. Yeah, then the other liability would come down to the boat owner, and then that would just be between them and their insurance policy. And they'd have to be okay with that. But as long as the state's DMF is okay with it, then I'm fine with that too.
The only thing that I have as a concern, I've agreed with everything that everybody has said, is funding an outing like this, does it fall within the scope of our mission statement?
So we've looked at that, Rob. In the CREPL strategic plan, that's sort of it's a document they use. Access and education is a part of it. And I don't want to come across as supporting or denying. I'm just trying to give a perspective. What this application spoke on is possibly having some of our teams, like Carcass Collection Group or say fish handling, even Marine Patrol, show up at the captain's party. I think last year it might have even been held at Chasing Tails or somewhere, but having them show up there and even the day of the fishing tournament to speak on some of those points. So
okay.
I'm not sure if that helps or hurts, but man, I'm just trying to give you some perspective on the proposal as a whole.
It helps. And
that kind of brings up some questions I was thinking about too. So what did the funds go to with the tournament? Does it help pay for private boat owners to take their boats out? Or is it just paying for the function / party that's going on for the tournament? And I wonder where the costs are going.
So there's a couple page numbers on these, and that's just how they were submitted. The bottom left page, page 15, gives a budget. I think they subsidize the fuel for the private boats, Robert. But the majority of the funds looks like it goes to the event afterwards and the head boat.
Okay, so I see that now. That makes sense. So they're taking veterans out on a head boat. It's not like 15 different private boat owners taking out groups of like the Wounded Warriors program.
I think it's both. It's both.
It's both.
It's both. Okay.
Yeah. So part of it's for head boat,
for
and then the rest
volunteer
is
captains. I see that.
Yeah.
So they're paying volunteer captains. That would mean that's a private boat captain.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they're paying them, which can quickly blur the line between who is a charter boat and who is not. I think they may subsidize the fuel, but I don't think the individual boat owners are paid to carry these troops out.
One of the things I like about this grant is not just be that they've been around for a while, but it's in this grand scheme of things, it's pretty small, right? And it's a pretty big, it's a pretty big program, and it's a small thing from us. And I do like the fact that if DMF can do some education stuff in there, that's great.
The only thing that concerns me that I don't want us to lose focus over, and I'm going to bring this up as an issue after everything is done, is this is budgeted over 3 years. And I don't want us to lose focus that, well, we got a bill pending from something we approved several years ago. So we'll talk about that at the end. I don't know if we still have some out there like that or how we keep track of that, but you know, that's only a little concern. But I'll make a motion we accept this grant application.
Can I ask a question before I second that motion? Can this hypothetically, can the grant be approved for 1 year? Or do we have to approve it for all 3 years?
That's what I was going to ask, Tom.
It's a good one.
So DEQ, who all of our contracts go through, they'll let us do up to a 3-year contract. We put in the RFP up to 3 years. What it does is it gives them a little consistency. In this case, you know, what happens this year, how do they need to focus their fundraising efforts for next year, really for any of these projects, I guess. Some of them you'll see, especially toward the end, is a one-time shot, you know, year one money to make it happen. I think the thought with this year 3 project is sort of consistency over the years, so they know, you know, at the end of the year, they can be planning for next year. But the director absolutely can approve to do 1 year or 3 years.
And they can recommend that in their motion, right?
Right.
As part of the motion. So I'll just put
Okay.
sort of the boilerplate that we have up here, just so you can see it, and then let me know as if you want to amend the language that's here.
Add to mine with that approve the funding, recommend funding for the project with due consideration given to whether or not it should be a 3-year funding. And once again, we're just making recommendations to the director, but you know, just like for the director, just to, you know, look at that.
Sure.
Yeah,
I'm
insinuating
comfortable with that.
Right, insinuating that it could be a 1-year funding thing, funding program with potentially 2 more.
Right.
But we need to, yeah, she said that would be up to her, I guess.
Yeah.
Leave that up to her.
Yeah, and with us being part of this monetarily for a year, I'm sure we'll have more eyes and ears on the event and make sure it is an event that we need to support. I'm sure it is, but
Do we have a second already?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Before we vote, I just like to add to kind of a little bit more of that discussion, just say that I think it's important to anything that is obligating us to funding for more than 1 year, we need to really consider that because you don't know what funding is going to be like next year.
Right.
So this kind of gives that hint to the director, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Ready
I'll
for a vote?
reiterate what Robert says. So.
Okay. Are you ready for the roll call?
Yes.
Thank you. Rob Bizzle?
Yes.
Thank you. Tom Roller?
Yes.
Thank you. And Robert McNeil?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right, next is page 16, lower left corner of your PDF. This is project title, Hooked on the New River Oyster Highway, a public guide to fishing and water quality on the New River. The applicant itself was the city of Jacksonville. I think the CCA and the Coastal Carolina River Watch also have a part in this. The objectives of this are to provide a comprehensive public education program for recreational fishing practices. A list of all oyster reef locations with coordinates and maps. There was some pieces on a fishing seminar, as well as bringing in the recreational fishing guides in the area to participate. This total is total for this project Year one CREPL funds requested is $83,828. Year two is $38,130. Year three is $38,130. For a total of $154,139. They do have match. Sturgeon City has some. There's another $14,000 match. The total 3-year program overall cost, it looks like $178,399.76. That's on page 30 of your packet. I mentioned CCA and Coastal Carolina River Watch. Sturgeon City is also a partner in this. I don't want to leave them out.
What's Sturgeon City?
It's a nonprofit in the Jacksonville area, Tom. As far as specific emission statement, I'd really have to dig into it for that.
I know they do a lot of, education outreach, stuff on marine and coastal, habitats and animals and things like that.
Okay, I just hadn't heard of them. They have an awesome logo.
Yeah,
That's relevant
actually,
to the discussion.
Paula Farnell, she actually worked there before she came here, our new assistant. So she'll have a good
Oh, okay.
take on them if you want to talk to her more about it.
Again, this is a 3-year grant, right? So front load it. Is that right?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Obviously, fishing, education of fishermen is front and foremost in state and federal fisheries. We talk about it all the time. Things like these. This one I was, when I read it, I was trying to learn more about it. I am comfortable seeing it so highly regarded with Riverwatch and CCA. I don't have much more to add other than just always the concern we raised earlier about, multi-year grants.
North Carolina
I think-
Wildlife Habitat Association was going to get involved in it. The guy, Eddie Bridges, who was really behind that pretty strongly, passed away, and it kind of fell on some other people to do the job, which they didn't do. They were going to get some money to this, and it just didn't happen. I think it's a good project. And what was the cost for this coming year for us?
Our year one fund, or the amount of funds requested for year one was $83,828.04.
$83,828.
Right, 83,828.04
And 4 cents.
and 4 cents.
Cents adds up. Okay. All right. It's your turn, Tom, or mine?
After the last few commission meetings, I think I'm gonna put it on your shoulders, buddy.
Oh, Lord. You don't know what's been on my shoulders recently, but anyway, I make a motion that we approve this. The only thing about this grant, time out on a motion, is grants like this where they're looking for proposals over a several year period of time. It's almost like if we don't do the whole grant, and know we're going to do the whole grant, the project will not be successful. And I want CAT to have the ability to take a look at this. And if all of a sudden nobody's buying fishing license, what do we do? We've made a commitment, even though we do have a fund balance. So yeah, I make a motion we approve this grant application.
Rob, can I make a comment?
I will.
I know you said you would bring it up later, but this might resolve some of your concerns, or I can wait. I absolutely can wait.
So I'll second the motion, and then we can Go ahead, Chair.
Sorry, Matt.
Yeah.
So there's always a clause in these contracts that is based on available funding. So
Right.
we can commit to it, but if something happened, or Lord forbid, another COVID, something crazy like that happened, the state has the ability to back out because there's not funding available. So we're committed to it on a 3-year basis for this one, if that's what the director wants. We're obligated, but if an act of God happened, we could get out of it for that reason.
Okay, that,
Yeah, I mean-
that makes me feel better. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
To that point,
I
I wonder how many other projects we're working on that we're still paying out that's been approved a year or two ago.
That's what I want to know too.
We put it together. I can probably run it down before. At this point, we've only got one ADA one outreach project going. All the rest of them have finished. That's a Wildlife Resources Commission project for ADA upgrades. There's multiple research projects going. That's one of the reasons why there's no research proposals in this past RFP, is because we have so much out there now. Right off the cuff, I'd say 13 projects maybe ongoing. But I don't know if that helps or not.
Do we know what the
Well,
price?
the cost of it is what I was interested in.
So I'd have to get back with you. And the reason I say that is because they've been ongoing. They've completed perhaps 1 or 2 years, and they may only have a year 3 amount. Each one's at a different stage in this game. If you're looking open projects as of today, the remaining balance, I'd have to really dig into it to get you that. I can get it. I just don't have it right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so it makes it tricky because Tom, we're talking, Tom.
Hmm.
It makes it tricky to really decide to approve any of these, not knowing how much of that $5 million is already committed.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm struggling with now. I mean, we can talk about these projects and we can approve them to meet the criteria, but to approve the funding for them, I need a better look at the budget.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, me too. And being a business owner, that's how I operate. I'm not going to make big financial decisions without looking at my current committed funds for of savings for the next few years. I would say about this project in particular, what I like about it, it kind of seems like it's a front-loaded grant, and then you're maintaining it for a couple of years. That's kind of my understanding by reading the application. Would that be an accurate way to look at it?
So that 5 million figure I give you already accounts for those other projects to be fully spent out. That's what you have today.
Okay.
Year 3 of existing projects that was already budgeted. We've got $654,441 moving in some of these research projects. So, and that's already taken out of your $5.1 million pot. So the 5.1 has already paid for those projects at this point.
So that's
Okay.
real money. That's real money going
Okay.
forward.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That 5.1 is not tied to anything else. That's free available cash to spend on projects like this. Okay.
It is.
The other projects that are being paid for are that money is already taken out and put into a different account allocated to those projects, I guess.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, I feel like I can move forward then.
Yeah.
So if I
Likewise.
might, Robert, if
Yeah.
I could just jump
Yes,
in. Doug Rader has been able to join us. He had some technical issues, but he is on now.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to.
Sorry, guys,
note that.
I'm here.
No problem. Good to see you.
Doug, so we've gone over one application so far. So you haven't missed a whole lot. Major discussion so far has just been on available budget right now to spend on these projects. Quick update, we've got $5.1 million of available funding to spend. That's been building up over the past couple years. Last year, we brought in about $1.7 million in CREPL funding. So if you want to use 1.7 as that's what we made last year. So that kind of gave me an idea of what we're making a year and what we could potentially spend in a 1 year time, even though we have $5 million in the account. So we're discussing the city of Jacksonville applicant right now. And we look to have just made a motion, right? And seconded by Tom.
Correct.
Is that what we're?
Yeah.
Yeah, that motion, Mark.
Is it, okay. Oh, yes.
It's up.
Laura, do we need to?
So, yeah, so if you're finished with discussion, I just need you to call a roll call vote.
Or we can. Do you need us to call that, Rob?
Yes.
Rob Bizzle,
Yes.
Doug Rader,
Aye.
Tom Roller,
Yes.
and Robert McNeil.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right. Next project is page 34 on the bottom left of your packet. This is the expanding recreational fishing access by enhancing the Morris Landing Clean Water Reserve Pier by the town of Holly Ridge. Their ask is a one-time request of $154,000, $154,425. They wrote in their project need. This landing sees 12,000 visitors a year. If funded, it's going to replace the deck boards, the hand railing. It's going to add a T at the end of the pier. It'll extend the walkway observation pier into the marsh. We'll bring the pier into ADA compliance. We'll install bollards to prevent ATV access, and they'll install signs to educate visitors for resilient marine construction practices, ecology, and coastal stewardship.
I wonder with any projects like this, William and I were kind of discussing some of this beforehand, but do we, by giving the funding for a project like this, do we get to put any kind of signage up there for the division, or any kind of outreach there, giving us some credit for that?
You read my mind. I was going to make that part of the motion. Wildlife does it, we ought to do it too.
I know.
It's typically in the RFP. If they don't specifically include it, we would put it as a special condition on the contract.
Special condition.
I'm not sure if we have like measurements, does it have to be 12 by 18? But that's something we could look at, maybe look for consistency. What's WRC putting out? We should have something just as big or the same size, at least.
Bigger.
Comparable.
Yeah, comparable.
So that's what I would like to see, is for us to get credit where we're giving funding, and especially if we're a major funder of any kind of project.
All right.
Um,
Well, just for the sake of discussion, I'll make a motion that we approve this grant application.
I'll second that motion. Would like to ask some questions though.
Yeah.
okay, we can take some questions now.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm looking at the plan for the Morris Landing. So this is owned by the Coastal Federation, correct? And I just want to be clear that this is open to the public. Anybody can use this 24 hours a day, as said in the grant. I'm looking at the plan. So what we're doing is we're just funding the dock. I saw this proposed non-motorized boat launch. Is that in there now, or is that part of another future grant or proposal? Can anybody give me any other information regarding other stuff that's going on here? Like what the long-term plan is for this?
I think the ownership is oh, okay. It's purchased by the Coastal Fed. Sorry about that. That might be something we could do a site visit on, Tom.
Okay.
We got ready. I'm just not At this, what we're trying to do is take the proposals for what they are. Because if we don't dig into one the same as the other, we're going to create inequity. But I think that's a really good point.
Well, I understand that. I just want to make sure I know what we're funding, and and I saw this other, you're looking at this like potential trailer turnaround, potential trailer padding. I want to make sure that we're not funding a little part of something that's, that the full vision isn't necessarily going to happen. Does that make sense how I'm asking that? But these sort of proposals and funding that are really good for shoreside access are really important, particularly if it's something that people can do low or no cost. Just for somebody to go out and stand on a dock and wet a line, I think are very, very undervalued. That's why we see people standing at the end of boat ramps all the time, casting their lines over launching boats and into their engines. So, which was a kind of a joke, but it's just, I think we need more access like this for people to utilize, public access points. So I obviously fully support it. I just wanted to kind of get a bigger picture of the rest of the thing, of their vision.
Yeah, so Tom, when I'm looking more at this, I see a proposal from the marine contractor, and it gives a scope of work. That's on page 43. So that's the proposal leading to the $152,000. Shows you exactly what they're proposing to build. So it looks like those potential holding trail, boardwalk, those potential items, future Coastal Federation stuff is not included in this proposal.
I understand that, but I think when you've got a big project like this or a huge property, and we're funding one other point, I'm just curious, like, it may not be relevant to this discussion, but when we're putting money towards it, I kind of want to understand what the other future of this project is, right? Like,
yeah,
you don't want to fund a part of something not knowing whether or not anything else has any planning to actually, occur in the near future, or whatever. So I'm not explaining myself well, but I think you understand where I'm going.
No, I see your point now. Yeah. So what's their total project plan, their future plan there, and their timeline on that? Why aren't they doing it all right now? Or they think they can't get funding for everything? I don't know.
It's Holly Ridge. They probably don't have much money.
Either way, it looks like they have existing parking and whatnot. So us funding this dock and this access, I think, is a very good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. If there's no more discussion, I think we're ready for a vote.
Okay. Rob Bizzle?
Yes.
Thank you. Doug Rader?
Aye.
Thank you. Tom Roller?
Yes.
Thank you. Robert McNeil?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right. Next one is page 46 of your packet. This is the Surf City boating access area renovation.
Mm-hmm.
This was put in by the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission. Year one funds, total funds are $301,850. And this will improve the Surf City boating access area. Access area currently has 2 fixed docks that rest on piling supports. Floating docks will improve user friendliness, safety, and require much less maintenance during the term of the dock's useful life. The site currently does not offer appropriate ADA parking. Wildlife Resources Commission proposes to pave the heavy use portions of the site near the head of the ramp, as well as create heavy ADA parking with access to the head of the ramp. We'll turn it back over to you from there.
Okay, so my concern here is probably going to be the same concern going through the rest of the applications from WRC. And it looks like they're asking for the total cost of each of these projects. I wonder, who put up the money for that whole site, for that Surf City boat ramp initially? How much has WRC contributed to this site in the past? How much have we contributed to these projects in the past? That's going to be hard to determine right now, but I guess the point is, if we decide to fund this project, we definitely need DMF signs up down there and a lot of information giving us credit for that site. I mean, it's kind of, every time you see a public boat ramp, it's always called a WRC, a wildlife resource ramp. And that's always kind of baffled me when it's in our jurisdiction for giving a lot of money to these sites. They should be called DMF sites, DMF ramps, or,
Or both.
Or both.
Or both.
I could deal with both.
both. Yeah. And recognition for both. It's fine.
Yeah. And I think that's, right now we're on a little bit of we're trying really not to blow our relationship totally with wildlife. And I mean, we've got issues with one another. I think somewhere down the road, we need to ask them, or even ask them if they have any problems with us putting a sign there and being in any ramp that we have given money to. I think that'd be a very fair thing to ask for. But what I'm concerned about is if this is their ramp, why are they expecting us to pay 100% of the repair on their ramp? There's no match to do this. I'm really just between all of us in this room. They've done some weird stuff here recently, and here's another one. They're asking us for $75,000, and their match is $2,000. $75,000, $2,000. $730,000, $21,000. I've got some problems with wildlife's grants. Be right, frank and honest with y'all. I'd love to get some more information. Am I the only one who feels well, help me?
I apologize. Well, I was just going to say, I think it would be nice from the division perspective to have recognition for when we support these recreational access sites. So you could include that in your motion to support, and just provide some language that you would want to require signage to acknowledge that funding source.
Okay.
That could be one
have
of,
a question.
that could be a condition.
Tom, do you have a question?
Yeah, so in past boat ramp funding or site funding like this, how has WRC contributed to it? Are there matching grants larger than $2,000? I mean, how has that changed over time? Can anyone provide any feedback or information on that?
Sorry, I was trying to wait my turn on. So in the past, I'd have to look in to see what the amounts they've matched. But when CREFL has provided funds, we've actually required that they put up a CREFL sign showing support. It's a white sign with blue letters, and site visits were conducted on those to make sure it was there. For instance, if they say they're going to put in 15 parking spots, we send someone there to make sure there's 15 parking spots. There's a CREFL sign. Do those things come off, or do they get switched out for other material? That's something we do. We can do routine site visits to make sure it's still there. But I get you on the signage. As far as matching funds, I'm scared to speculate, Tom, but that's something we could dig into. But I see all of your points, and they'll all be forward.
I think speaking of on Rob's point, I'm used to calling him Chair, but I guess the other Rob is Chair, or we'll say Robert. I think that that is something that we need to discuss and look at going forward. But that being said, my other part of this is I know this ramp, it's a really popular area, and these improvements are needed and important, particularly the floating docks, these stationary piling docks. They don't wear as well. They get worn, they damage your boats, and et cetera and so forth. And these new floating dock systems seem to hold up a lot better. So I do support this grant and what it is. I just do have my concerns, as voiced by others, regarding the matching fundings and whatnot.
Yeah, I would like to know why they think this is our responsibility to fix.
I think we should split the cost.
I'd be fine with that. As long as we had the proper signage.
Now, of course, I'm the new kid on the block and don't know anything about this, right? So I'm basically going to defer to your guidance. But it does seem to me to be a programmatic question about which of the estuarine and coastal access points are in the joint waters, how those have been managed in the past, who paid for them originally, what the fair maintenance costs ought to be for those, and how those costs are being borne. And then if there are amplifying projects that really aren't part of that routine maintenance, that it seems like whoever funded them probably ought to cover, it would make a lot of sense for those to come through. But I guess I'm feeling a little bit like being piecemealed. I have absolutely no idea. And so have to defer to you guys about the history of the projects and how those add up through this program and others in terms of putting in place, maintaining, and enhancing that network of sites.
Yeah, I wonder, to that point, I wonder which agency bought this site initially. It's probably WRC, right?
They build all of the state ramps and the public state-owned ramps are built and maintained by WRC. I think they do most of it in-house. They've got their own engineering crew, their own construction crew. Not always, but generally that's how they function with these programs.
But they're not all maintained by WRC because they're asking for our funding for that.
Did they ask for our input when they did this? Did they say, y'all think this is a good idea, a good spot, or anything like that? And I obviously I've got a lot of concerns. We're looking at $1.4 million worth of grants today, and about 1.1 is for wildlife.
The conversation I had with one of their participants, Rob, was should they turn it in as one big bulk application, or should they turn in several?
Well,
ultimately, I left it up to them, but I did see the merit in turning in several because you can look at individual pieces.
Right. With your conversation with them about turning in these grants, was it, yeah, we need to do this and hope y'all will help this, or we feel like this is y'all's responsibility, or what was their state of mind by asking us for $1.1 million?
That's tough.
Okay.
All these proposals are for areas within coastal fishing areas, right?
Yeah.
Like saltwater access. So
yeah,
and they do. I mean, I understand all these concerns here. I will go back to some of the other grant approvals that fixed ramps in the areas that I fish in Carteret County and that were similar. And from a user perspective, they were great. And, you just have to update these things for time. I understand all the concerns, but from a pragmatic standpoint, that I want to offer those comments as well.
Yeah, I mean, from that standpoint, like, I think if the property needs to be maintained for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm worried that the WRC is just saying, okay, all these properties need updates. Let's see if we can get Marine Fisheries to pay for it all first before we pay for any of it.
That's my feelings.
Okay. But we don't maintain the freshwater ramps. We don't do grants for those, right? I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Well, no.
But we don't also own
there.
we don't own any other public ramps in the state, I don't think, do we?
We don't own ramps, or DNF does not. Yep.
I mean, I think we should try to build some ourselves. Just like, the last application, WRC is trying to build a new wildlife ramp. Why isn't that our ramp instead?
Why didn't they ask us to be part of the project?
Yeah, be a partner on it.
Yeah.
I think these need to get funded. I just don't think it's being fair to us.
I mean, can we make it contingent in that way? In other words, if the committee agrees that these are priorities in and of themselves, then we should go forward and fund them, but also at the same time say that we are interested in coordinating the development and improvement of access through those waters, including actually I have no idea how it interacts with the other coastal fishing regulations they're trying to put in place and those issues. So that, it seems like, to your comment earlier, Chairman Bizzle, that there would be some merit in offering that at that larger scale to make an investment in the health of the overall shared responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, do the ones you guys think are most important and make that outreach.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that what we're kind of doing here, right? Like, because we still have the recommendations and the say over the funding in the areas that they fall under our jurisdiction, and they have the capabilities to build and engineer these things. So
they probably also have the funding to do it too.
They've got the funding to do it.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just
one thing that bugs me, I guess, is are they not building ramps in non-joint waters?
Is freshwater you're referring to, or?
No, coastal waters, not joint waters, just plain old coastal waters. Do they not have like the ramp by y'all's place? That is not a joint water.
I think I can't speak directly to them. I think that, well, I know they receive sport fish restoration money from the Fish and Wildlife Service. There's some coastal money in that. There's broader money, but they receive sport fish money to build those ramps, and they are in coastal waters.
Yeah, I just wonder how much they brought us into the mix through the conversation on these ramps.
Yeah, because most of the public access ramps are WRC ramps in saltwater in the coastal fisheries area.
Yeah.
I hate to have one more thing that we need to work with another agency on, but it just seems like, either we decide to start building our own public access points, which I think we should. And if they're going to keep asking us for funding on the ramps that they have all over the state and salt water, then we need to work some kind of deal with them. We need to be a partner on them with that.
We need to be an active participant in location planning, the whole bit. I mean, and I think that is a very fair and appropriate take at this. Whether right now today is the way to do it, it's a time to do it.
On this one, we could say that we want to support half of that 300,000 with the explanation we've just been discussing.
Yeah. And also put a tag on it that going forward, and of course, this is us making recommendations to the director. She can say something or nothing, whatever she wants to. But I think she would refer to what the committee would say. But that we are interested in joint projects, and we would like to participate in some joint projects, and fully participate in joint projects. I think if we improve any of this funding right now, we need to make that clear that. I mean, they built this ramp, didn't ask us about it, didn't bring us into design, but they want us to maintain it. That's the way I'm looking at it. And I just, they've been using some heavy-handed tactics recently, and this to me is another heavy-handed tactic. So
I agree.
I've said my piece.
And this is going to be this. I don't know about the next two because they're not as big a dollar values, but the last item on the agenda is going to be exactly like this discussion.
Yeah.
But if there's no more discussion on this one, I'd like to entertain a motion. If not, we can keep talking about it.
I mean, I'd make a motion to approve the project. However, I would look for guidance from my other commissioners here regarding how you'd want to have some language in there regarding our cooperation or signage or whatever.
If you're going to make that motion, I may second it and vote against it. Um,
Well, Rob, then I'll withdraw that because I want this to be consensus, okay? So I'll withdraw my motion.
well.
Or
Is there a way to rebundle these? I mean,
well, the last one needs to be by itself, in my opinion,
Yeah,
okay.
because they're talking about buying a piece of land and building a ramp. That's a completely different thing. This one and the next two are just repairing existing ramps that they own.
okay.
Robert?
So we won't seem
Yes.
like the SOB
If you want to, you can package these however you like. So we sort of did these motions just to make sure that we could do it quickly, but we can package them however you would like. So if you'd like me to pull, all three, two or three of the next ones, so you can consider them as a package, then certainly you can do that. Just let me know.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please, Rob.
I'd like to kind of leapfrog up a little bit. I'd like for us, just so we don't seem like SOBs totally, that we approve the two applications for $75,000 for the
Midway Drive boating access,
Yeah.
Cannons Ferry boating access.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we approve those. That we approve the application.
Two of those.
Okay. I'm fine with packaging those two together.
Okay.
Very good. We're going to drive.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
And they'll see I'm approving something for them. Like I really care.
Wait, so question. So we're doing the Surf City boating and then the next two.
We're coming
Other
back to
ones?
Surf City for a minute.
Yeah, we're gonna come
Okay,
back.
all right.
Yeah, we're gonna come back to that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the ones.
Oh,
I'll second this motion.
Jason. And that was seconded by Tom Roller.
Correct.
Thank you.
May I make some comments, Chair?
Yes, please.
Okay, so both of these, let me just scroll to where I'm at. So one of these is on the Chowan and one of these is in Edenton. Is that correct? I have to scroll up and down. I just want to make sure that. Anyway, I think that these are important, obviously providing access, particularly in our rural counties, making sure these boat ramps are in good shape are really important because recreational fishing is, and the other users of the resource as well, are so important to our economies in these areas to make sure that we maintain good access. So obviously I support funding these two projects.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Okay. Rob Bizzle.
Yes.
Thank you. Doug Raider.
Aye, sorry, I hit it twice.
Thank you. Tom Roller.
Yes.
Thank you. And Robert McNeil.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, I mean, we can go back to the Surf City one now, or we can come back to that in a minute. I think they're, they're two separate thoughts on, they're two different projects. One is making repairs to an existing access point that WRC owns to give recreational fishermen access to the waters, which is our, should be our responsibility as well. If somebody's got a motion on that one right now, I'll entertain it. If not, I'd like to move to the other one.
Can I think just a minute on the Surf City one?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, let's go over to the other one then. Now have they purchased the land yet? When they have done anything on design on this, on the lowland marina acquisition?
I think they mentioned some of the proposal. My understanding is this is for the purchase of it. Right now it's privately owned.
Okay, so we are buying the land for them to put a facility on there.
That's my understanding.
Okay. If I may make a motion to just to have some discussion on this, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve this funding request as long as we are fully involved in the design of the facility.
Tom Roller seconds that motion.
This will, I believe, get their attention that, we'll gladly do some of this stuff, but we got to be participatory in what we do. It's kind of like giving your child $20,000 to go buy a car. They could buy an e-car or a diesel powered pickup truck. It's yeah.
I mean, I would like to see this site. I wish we could buy it by ourselves and do it ourselves and call it the first division public ramp.
Yeah.
But if we need to do this to, I don't know, for public relations with them, then that's fine. I just want to make sure that we get all the credit or due credit.
Yeah.
Because there's probably going to be some more costs going in. If this is just the land cost, there's probably be some more items coming.
Oh yeah.
Does anyone know approximately what the relative costs are for putting those facilities in? In other words, is the amount that they would then put in after the fact the same, higher? I have no idea.
It's hard to say. I don't even know what I don't know if we did get a picture of the design, but
so there's a
Yeah.
picture. There's two pictures here. One of them shows a building on a piece of land. The other one shows the marina with sheet pile bulkhead. And I mean, if this was me looking at a piece of property for myself or our business, I would need a lot more information than just this. I don't know if I can support it right now, not knowing everything about it. I mean, is it listed publicly for sale, or did they just find the owner and it's not listed anywhere?
And do they have CAMA permits?
Have they maintained the CAMA permits for future dredging?
Those things are impossible to get. If an area has not been dredged before, it is virtually impossible to get a permit. They didn't include a projected cost for the rest of the project, did they?
I'll jump in, Chair.
Yes. Well,
So my, in early conversations, this won't help you but so much, but I think the conversation at the time was they didn't send engineers out there to consider these other costs until phase one was done. Phase one is the purchase, phase two is the building.
So I'm just looking at this approach scope work here, and they've got this contracted with an appraiser, Daniel Glenn, who established the opinion of the property value to be, 730. I'm actually really good friends with Daniel Glenn, so I don't know if that presents a conflict of interest to me or not. But so I trust his valuation on that for one. That at least helps me with the price of that land, but it doesn't help me with a number of other things. But that does look like just the value of the land. So any other improvements they're going to do on the site is going to be in addition to that.
So Chair, may I?
Yes,
May I
please,
comment?
Tom.
Okay, Chair. So I'm going to comment solely on the location in the area. I have used this ramp. It's a pay ramp. I think all the questions raised regarding the future costs of the program and what that's going to look like, I think are very valid. I think when we have the opportunity to create an investment in public access, particularly in our most rural counties in the state, that's something we always have to consider. There's already an existing ramp there. People use it. This is going to be a really important investment, not just for future recreational fishermen in the coastal areas, but also, as is stated, this is a super popular area for duck hunters to launch their boats. And that's a huge part of the economy down there in lowland, because I love lowland, but there's not much else there in lowland. So to have this sort of thing and in public permanent investment is really, really important. And I hope that we can work through some of these issues to get there. I know it's expensive, and I'd like to see the other things going forward. But as it stands, it's an important ramp, and it was proposed because the future risk of this access is potentially going away, right? So we just stated in the application. I wish there was more stuff put in here, giving us more information, but from the basis of it, I'm going to support it for future access.
Can I amend my motion?
Follow me.
Yeah. Leave it as is, and at the end of design facility, comma, with a projection for the expense. How am I want to word this? With an expense projection for finishing the project and an update on CAMA permits.
And your second is okay with those changes?
Okay, thank you. All right.
So, okay.
Hold on.
So I've just found this site on Google Earth and on the county tax records. It's the old Goose Creek Lodge. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that. But it looks like the site has a couple of buildings on it. It looks like a really cool site, actually. And I think if we buy it with WRC and develop it together, I think it's a great project.
Yeah, if it all can work out. I hate to do this. Let me add one more amendment to it. App says projection for completing the project, comma. And a determination where these funds will come from. Comma. Because wouldn't it be a hell of a
I'm
note?
okay with that change.
Okay, wouldn't it be a hell of a note if they got this land, permits are in place, then they come back to us and say, okay, now we want y'all to build it. And we'll put our name on it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that motion gets the message across that we want more information on this.
Yeah. Y'all don't know a lot of things, but these guys have been tough to deal with here over the last couple of years. Real tough.
So, comment. I assume this is an adequate language to convey the notion that we're interested in the the planning and ongoing implementation of this site, and for that matter, others like it. So, I just wondered if the notion of planning for the for long-term implementation and maintenance is in here. I assume it is, or at least that's the intent, right?
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, one might have said we're fully involved in the planning and design for the facility with et cetera, et cetera.
Or you could have said, we're interested in being a 50% partner on this with you.
We don't know what
WRC.
50% is going to be, though.
Or we could be a 50% partner in the land cost.
Can I comment?
Yes, Laura.
I think I would recommend not giving specific values only because WRC funds all of these voting access. That includes the maintenance and quite a few other things that they fund through that they fund directly. So 50% might be pretty substantial.
Yeah, I meant
So
50%
I would
of
say
this land cost, the 730.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, it would be really interesting to understand where those funds come from in terms of the whole program and the way that this commission ought to look forward towards interacting with those. So, for instance, if they're predominantly or maybe vastly predominantly federal funds that are being directed towards this, then that sounds like a broader process that we might want to be involved with. Now, of course, they will see those as their funds and et cetera, et cetera. So, but just it seems like this is the camel's nose into that under that tent and into some new relationship with them that we might be careful to enhance. So I don't know if we can learn more for subsequent applications about the overall funding, if it's like the General Assembly, them working for General Assembly and private sector money that is theirs that they're spending, that's one thing. If they're directing federal money that a number of institutions, wildlife related institutions in North Carolina would be eligible for, then that's another. I don't know that MFC wants that as a actually construction and oversight of those kinds of facilities as a duty, but as a joint process maybe more systematically.
Yeah, I would be interested in doing some joint projects with wildlife, but participation's got to be more than they design it and we pay for it. I mean, we've got to be a real partner with this going forward. And Robert, what you mentioned about us having our own ramps and doing that, I think that's a great idea. They seem to have the system and the equipment and the knowledge and all that, how to build these. And maybe if we could get in there with them on some 50-50 partnerships with them, heck, they could make twice as many ramps as they have, or they're going to. So
yeah,
maybe it's a good thing that we're wording it like this to say, hey, we're willing to be partners.
I'm honestly surprised that this site, that we're having to pass an option at this site, and somebody from the private sector is not buying this to continue it as a hunting lodge. There's not a lot of opportunity left in the state for public ramps to go in.
Right.
So securing stuff like this for the public is huge. I just want to be fair with us and WRC. I wish we could have some discussion with them on this project and things like that going forward.
That's where CAT comes in.
Well, I'm going to support it as it is, but I would love to know from the staff, but also from you, Mr. Chairman Gazelle, what the prospects would be for that broader term piece. I mean, don't have to talk about that today, but how do we actually make, because that implies a lot of our time and the staff's time and expense to be able to build a program like that. But
Right.
And we use this as a trial.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the facilities that are on this site already, it could be a spot where, I don't know, both organizations, you could use that as a site to go sampling for a week, just looking at those buildings on Google Earth.
Or maybe an education site too, so I can imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But I go back to Robert's comment, just similar to mine, and how important it is for us to invest in these for the long-term future, because properties like this just aren't coming available much longer. Our coast is getting developed so much. You can already see how hard it is to acquire new properties in the more developed areas of the coast. So, investing in this future is a big deal.
I think as long as we're getting credit for our investment here, I think it's fine. And
being included in the
being, exactly. So
yeah.
I think, like William said, anytime we spend money on projects like these with WRC, we get CREPL signage. We probably need to get more DMF signage on sites like this, and being involved with the design phase. I'm fine with it.
I do think the last phrase of the motion is important. I would hate to get crosswise with a sister agency, particularly related to the coastal habitat protection planning initiatives and things like that. So if there are additional CAMA permits for either construction or for maintenance, dredging, or other kinds of things, anyway, I just think we need to be aware of that circumstance.
Yeah, because
But to me, that actually wouldn't necessarily slow down acquiring it, but it might change the design of the beef.
It changes the valuation of it if you can't maintain the permits, in my opinion. The CAMA and Army Corps permits that are there for dredging, if they're there, they've got an expiration date, and how long is that, and what do we need to do to maintain them and to renew them? Is the questions that we're going to want on that update about the CAMA permits. Okay. Anything else? All right. I guess we can move to a roll call vote then. Laura?
Okay. Rob Bissell?
Yes.
Thank you. Doug Rader?
Aye.
Thank you. Tom Roller?
Yes.
Thank you. Robert McNeil?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay. So with that said, and that type of description, I feel like that helps us with a motion for the Surf City boating access. So did we have a motion up on that one? We just had.
Not.
Okay.
This is the draft that we put together, so it's not. You have not put this one in all.
Okay, so that 300,000 for the renovation to the Surf City boating access, that was the full proposal for that job. I'll open it up for discussion again one more time, or take a motion. I mean, I feel like since we approved that one for the Lowland Marina, it could go either way, because it kind of goes back to what I was thinking with the Lowland. You split the cost of it. Why? I don't think I can make a motion.
No, I'm not going to either, but Tom, I was persuaded that Tom says that this is important. And I'm just wondering if Robert, if your other model, the 50% match kind of approach might be prudent here. Although I don't know what that means. I mean, should we expect that they have those kinds of funds or not?
Oh, they got them.
They got the funds. They would buy that lowland marina if we said no. They were just checking to see if we would pay for it for them. That's all they're doing.
Well, in any event, that might create all three of the pathways we talked about before, which is go ahead and fund the investment. Fund some of them, absolutely fund some of them with a commitment towards longer-term planning, and then split costs on things that we think ought to be split. So I don't know. I'm going to shut up now, but
I mean, I guess I'm fine with supporting to pay for that for Surf City. Again, make sure we're getting credit at the site. Tom, did you have something?
Yeah, so I'm viewing this one a little bit differently in light of the lowland discussion. And granted, I'm also coming from the perspective as I want to maintain these things and keep these open and keep this access good, because I've seen what happens when you don't maintain boat ramps. They get worse and worse and worse. They cost a lot more money to, go up and renovate and fix. This one's already there. It's already built. I'm viewing this one more as, I do want us to have some credit for it, right? But I don't view it as the same as purchasing that huge marina. I view that as, kind of a different scenario, right? This one, I'm more supporting it based off of our previous discussion. I'm making sense. Let me gather my thoughts here for a second.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that number one, my red flag is up on any funding from WRC for the whole portion of the project. I just think that they should be splitting costs with us on that. I'm not saying at all that these projects shouldn't be fully funded. I just think that the two organizations should work together a little bit more. Like, okay, is WRC spending another $300,000 on that project that we don't know about, and they actually are splitting the cost? I don't know.
Okay, here's where I'm kind of coming from. I'm assuming, of course, state of North Carolina will get title for that land up at lowland, but I'm expecting wildlife to put in at least $730,000 into the project themselves. If we're buying the land, they need to do that. And maybe we could set a standard right here going forward. I don't know why they are asking us for full funding to repair the Surf City boat ramp. Because, I'm sure there's signs on it. I'm sure they built it. I would come closer to going along with half that request. If we're going to share these things, we'll share these things, but let's share the maintenance. Let's share the construction price. It's just my thought right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should be splitting the cost on if we're not doing the whole project ourselves and it's named a marine fisheries ramp, then we should be splitting the cost with whatever other agency is involved with it.
Yeah, I agree. And I could call Philip real quick if we needed to, but if this purchase price and I'm going back and forth between the two things, the purchase price for lowlands, that is the purchase price for the land, correct?
That looks to be the purchase price for that 7.5 acre site with the boat ramp, the bulkheads, multiple buildings on it.
Okay.
So that's the appraised value.
Who has control over it? Us or wildlife? And so since I see wildlife's making an application for the money for this land, do they have total control over it?
Yeah. I think we should be purchasing the land and not giving them the money to purchase the land.
I'm,
But I don't want to steal it from them either. You know, if we said that that's
Yeah.
kind of an open faced discussion we need to have with them, like, you know, no, we don't want to do the deal with you guys and then go buy it, then that's a stab in the back.
all right. Jeez.
Well, and frankly, we don't have the money to take that ball and run all the way to completion, right? Without
I don't know. We got
sharing them.
$1 million in the bank.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the site doesn't need much, maybe other than just, and this is just looking at it from Google Earth. Like, you might just, you know, the parking looks like you might have to kind of designate some parking for trailers and that. But the other problem is, you know, taking it down all by yourself, you get a big storm, that place gets flooded out. You know, the insurance on that property, storm damage, are issues of owning it by yourself.
Yeah. Which it looks like we're just buying land for wildlife.
I know that was my initial problem with Lowland, was that it looked like we were buying property for them. Like, I was hoping to see we split that cost with them.
Okay. I tell you,
Hey guys, I'm going to throw a rock in the punch bowl here real quick.
I've thrown enough.
I think our license holders and the public, in the end, probably just really wants to see a ramp there. We should try to make the festival, you know, like, put all these concerns forward, but also make sure we do everything we can to make that. There's like this thunderstorm rolling by me right now, so there's probably a lot of wind. You guys got my point.
Yeah, I think the land purchase is fine, but it's who would control it. And I'm thinking wildlife is going to control it. I tell you, if I may, let me offer out a motion for discussion about Surf City, and let's get that out of the way. And
Yes, please.
I make a motion that we approve 50% of the funding, that we approve the application, but for 50% of the funding requested for the Surf City ramp.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Is that good, Rob?
Oh, excuse me. Yes.
Okay.
Y'all want me to call Philip real quick? I never can get him on the phone and just ask him a question about that, or we've been on doing this hour and a half. What do y'all want to do?
Is Philip with WRC or who?
Philip's the guy that sits left to me. Philip Reynolds. Yeah.
The attorney. Okay.
Yeah, he's our attorney. Yeah. Let me just see if I can get him real quick.
Roll call on this.
Yeah, we need to vote this.
Like, I mean, I'll just say real quick before we do the roll call, I'm not worried about I think the repairs are going to get done to this. I think WRC will come up with the other 50%. So I'm in support of this, and I'm ready for a roll call. When you're ready, Laura.
All right. Rob Bizzle.
Yes.
Thank you. Doug Rader.
Aye.
Thank you. Tom Roller.
Yes.
Thank you. Robert McNeil.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Let me see if I can get up with Sean.
Okay, so that's all of them, but we're not really done with Lowland yet, in my opinion. Think
Get an answer on that.
Yeah, it seems like the way it stands right now, we are committed. Well, we're recommending
Sean,
that
how you doing?
the money be provided regardless, almost. So is there a way to make it contingent on the successful completion of the second half of the motion? Anyways, I agree that the site should be acquired now, and that simply deferring that is a risky ploy. And so, but if we can make the investment contingent on the satisfaction with the joint planning and implementation program that we're talking about, then that seems like a better choice.
Yeah, I mean, so if we bought the land for WRC, then they own it. They have to maintain it. They're going to come back to us in years later for more grants to maintain it, and then that's when we're going to really have the proof of that's what they're doing to us, or not.
I guess what I meant was that the implementation and maintenance plan that in effect that we call for would have to be collectively developed in partnership and then implemented in partnership. But we'd want to see that plan before we write them the check. And yeah, they may hold, the state of North Carolina would hold title, and we would together be implementing an implementation plan of some variety.
I don't know that the motion really gets that across and says that we need to approve these plans before we release the funding. I mean, this might be a question for Laura or William. How soon do funds get released upon this approval?
So
They're
these
trying
are
to buy.
reimbursement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're reimbursement grants. So it would, from my understanding, it would have to go through the state property purchasing process, which is convoluted, but that takes a while. Once that were to close, essentially we would reimburse WRC. From my understanding, it's about a year and a half process. But if they were to be guaranteed funding, they would be ready to move forward essentially at that moment.
Yeah, so WRC has to buy the land with their funds right now anyway.
Correct.
And then they're just hoping to get paid back from us in the future sometime with the approval of this grant. I'm curious to hear what Rob's coming up with over there.
Robert, do you want to take a 5-minute recess? Just since he's away. Oh, here he comes.
Yeah.
Yeah, hold on. About finished. Hold on one second.
Okay.
$10.
I found there was a bunch of them too.
Okay, as usual, I could not get up with Philip, but I got up with Sean. Sean says this wording should wrap up our participation. I told him what our fears were, and we just, he says it will be, the property will be owned by the state of North Carolina, and the full marina and everything will be managed more than likely by wildlife. But, you know, as far as I'm concerned, if they want to manage it and repair it and do all this stuff to it, that's okay. We don't have to deal with it. But I want to make sure that any of the design, you know, that we're just a partner, we're a participant in it. So I think this gets us where we want to be, unless somebody's changed their mind.
I think it does too. We just have to have our guard. I mean, just be next year when these applications come in, we need to make sure we watch the, you know, money requested to maintain this property.
Yeah.
Because I think the maintenance of it shouldn't be any more than 50% from us.
I agree. And I'm just philosophically, I do not mind paying 50% of maintenance on any of these boat ramps, but 50% maintenance. As long as we fine.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Good meeting.
All right. Roll call vote.
We'll adjourn.
Yeah, we don't need it.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we
right,
already approved that other
Yeah.
one. I just want to
Okay.
make sure we won't step on
Yeah, the other
landmine.
one you approved.
I forgot we voted on that.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
We vote on it
Motion
again if you
to,
want to.
no, we can.
Motion
make a
to adjourn?
Second.
So moved.
Any discussion?
None.
No, do we need a roll call?
Good night.
Okay.
Thank you all very
All
much.
right, y'all.
Thank
Thank
y'all,
you.
everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.